Good morning. Let's get this figured out here. All right. Let's see what size you wanted those again. 30 by 48. Okay. So I've downloaded those files. I'm going to use the SVG ones. I think they're going to work better in Fusion 360s. So we'll start here with a new document. I'm going to create a sketch in the XY plane. I'm going to make a rectangle, the size, just to give me some perspective. So that's the 32 by 48 rectangle. Finish. Then I'm going to go insert SVG from my computer. And sure, let's do this one first. We'll insert it in the XY plane. And what's nice about this is there's this, I'm not sure how familiar with Fusion 360 you are, but this corner icon when you use the SVG insert tool gives you the option of scaling. So I'm going to get it scaled up to, as big as I could figure. There's lots of ways to scale in Fusion 360. This is just a good kind of eyeball method with these organic objects. Let's see, that's getting pretty big. Oh yeah, she fits. Alright, okay. So from here, I'm going to zoom out again. Finish sketch. So we have two sketches now. If we look in here, this kind of organizes everything we have going on in this area. So there's our sketches or our origin or just any of the elements that are out here. So right now we have two sketches out here. So there's two individual sketches in this drop-down menu, and there's not because apparently I only inserted one. Yeah, I inserted that image on the first sketch. Either way. So now I've inserted that SVG. I can hit E for the extrude key. And now I'll extrude this 14 gauge 0.075. Alright, so this is the object we want to cut. Basically that's all we need to do in this space. We can check some measurements with the measurement tool if we want. It's 47 across there. Let's go to design, or go to this switches between our different spaces in Fusion 360. So there's a design space, generative design space, rendering space. So really the only two you need to worry about is design and manufacture. So let's move to manufacture. From here, we're going to set this up for the Langmuir. I'm going to start with this setup. So the setup is basically saying where your design is in relationship to the material that's going to be on the table and the relationship of the material to the table. So this golden box represents the material being cut and the design is the design. We want a stock box point at the bottom left corner. So we're going to move it over here. The body's already selected. I usually do a 1/4 inch all around just so I don't cut off the sheet, or a little extra room to not cut off the sheet if I'm lining up right to the corner to start. And then I also like to add the name of what I want this file to be. This will end up being the NC file name or the cut file name. So we'll call it Chev front end. Perfect. Now we have this setup here. Now we have a new element in this space. It's been added to our browser bar, so you can see it here under setup. Now I'm going to go up to here to 2D profile. So 2D profile is going to let me choose which tools I want to use to cut this and how I want that cut. So we're going to start out with tools. I'm going to select one here. I have a lot of tools in my local library. You can build them yourself by going up to here and doing a new tool. I'm just going to use this example tool I have, example 45 amp tool. Select. Now from here, really all I got to do is click this body. It automatically jumps me over to the geometry space, and it selected this face contour. Or I shouldn't say body, face. Now we'll move over to here. I like to reduce the tolerance by 1 magnitude. Add smoothing on a shape like this. There's a lot of nuance in here, so we're not going to get too crazy, but let's just start with that for now. And for linking, I'm going to do a lead in, so that'll keep check marked. I'm going to do a slight lead in radius. I'm going to come in at 60 degrees, and I'm going to have a slight bit of straight lead in on that straight lead in radius. I'm going to have no lead out, and I'm going to get rid of the pierce clearance. And I'm going to hit OK, and it'll start generating a toolpath. Might take a second. There, now it's generated this toolpath here. So we can kind of see what the computer wants to do to make this happen. A lot of little cutouts here in this grill. I am going to now move over to simulate with machine. This will give me a good idea of what it actually looks like when it's going to cut. So let's just look at that quick. Just make sure it doesn't miss anything. I think this is going to work out fine. I'm just going to pick up the pace a little bit here. There we go. Let's exit simulation, and then I'm going to make sure I have setup highlighted before I move to NC program. This is where we're actually going to create the G code itself. I'm going to move into this menu. Under post, I'm going to make sure that I go through my file system and find the post processor that I've downloaded from the Langmuir main site. Under software 6.1, I'm going to make sure that's selected in here. You can see I have that name from my setup, the Chevy front end. This is my output folder here, where once this file has been made, or this program's been made, where it'll end up being located after the output file. And then our general properties. This is just what I have listed in here is basic defaults that Langmuir suggests for about this range of material. But depending on your cutter, a lot of that's going to change. So I'm going to post this. And now we've posted this code, and here it is. So this is all the G code we've just created. It's actually quite a few lines. How many lines of code is that? 4,000 lines of code, 3,500. All right. Now let's just do it again with the other one. Now I can save this file, and actually I will save it. I'll save this and send it back to you, or export it as an F3D and send it back to you. I'm going to call this Chevy front end. Perfect. Now I'm going to start another one here. I'm going to might do the same just to give me kind of a reference of scale while I'm scaling up that SVG, but definitely not the only way you can scale. I'm going to insert the SVG. With the square body. It's actually a pretty clean SVG. Stretch it out to maximum what I think I can get on here. Right there, perfect. Okay. It's funny, I did a dodge almost exactly like this. I'll see if I can link it too. Alright, finish the sketch. I'm going to go E for extrude. And see, it's trying to capture that whole square. So I'm going to go cancel. So if I go E for extrude and then hold down left click. E for extrude, hold down left click. You can see there's two different profiles. The profile of that one square I originally made, and then the profile of the SVG. I'm going to select that. I'm going to extrude it the thickness of 14 gauge, 0.075. Okay. Perfect. Now we'll move into the, it's almost like there's a missing component here. Let's go back and sketch and just, oh yeah. Let's see if I can extrude that. Sometimes some shapes have issues. I'm going to start a new sketch. I'm going to see if I can fix that little piece there on the headlight. I'm going to project these pieces and see if I can find where the closed or the open part is in it. Okay. Just going to try to make this a closed shape so I can sometimes things aren't connected and Fusion doesn't like it. It's probably something like this or just something silly. Let's do this. Just gonna redraw it quick. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to every single thing you can do here in Fusion 360, so every tool, and a lot of the tools and everything has a modifier that you can press, like Control or Alt or Shift, that slightly alters how it's going to work. Okay, perfect. Let's go back, bring that body back to life here so we can see it. And that's what these little eyeballs are visibility levels. I'm going to extrude this right there. And we'll fix that little piece that's missing. Alright. I'm using this as a cutting tool and just cutting a hole through that body. Shove side view. Okay. And then we're going to go into 2D profile. I'm going to select that example tool again and try to get all your tools under local library. And all these menus, when you see local, that means on your computer. Where's that example tool? Right here. I'm going to select this whole thing. I like to reduce the magnitude. It'll still work without doing this, but you'll end up with more lines of code. I find that it helps, and there's enough detail, or it doesn't disturb the detail. I like a little bit of lead-in radius so it's not coming harsh in when it's cutting. We'll get in there close and take a look at it this time. These have a lot to do with your preferences, how your machine's running. So definitely a lot of this is up to you kind of figuring out where you want to land. All right, and generate. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I'll show you what I mean here. So this is the lead in here. This is the lead in radius that we were talking about, and then this is the angle. Okay, let's take a quick look at the simulation, just make sure we're on the right track. Your simulation might be different depending on how your parameters are over here. There's a lot of different augments to the view. But this looks like it's going to cut nicely. I don't know, a lot of people might not agree with it or whatever, but when I'm doing a really dense cutting pack like this, I like to have a bucket of water and I just pour it right on top of the sheet while I'm cutting to keep it cold. Millions would argue against it, but that's what I like to do. Okay, let's go to exit simulation again. We're going to go... Oh, what did it... There's something in there it didn't want to cut. Oh, right there. So you see this warning here? And what that means is this little space was just too small to get that all that cutting in on it. So let's go back in there and see if we can just tweak it a bit and make it fit in there. So it discards stuff that it can't fit the lead in, lead out, and all these linking constraints you put in. That's why it's called discarded linking constraints. I'm going to change the angle a little bit and reduce this to 0.02. Alright, let's see if it wants to fit now. Almost done. There we go. Yeah, so it picked it up this time. You can see when it was longer before at a different angle, it would have crashed over here and it wasn't going to let us do that. So it just discarded those components. So that looks great. Let's make sure we have that setup selected before we move up to the NC program. That's our post processor we're using. This is our file name that we inserted back in the setup. This is where it's going to end up after we're done making it. These are our cutting parameters, cut height, spring back. These are just defaults from Langmuir basically. Myself, I usually run a little lower with no spring back, a little less delay, and a little less pierce height, but yeah, sky's the limit for tailoring it for yourself. Okay, we're going to post this. Here's the code. I bet you that's maybe more lines of code. Yeah, 6,000. Makes sense. All right, I am also going to export an F3D of this one. Call it Chev Side View. And I know that's a lot to chew on right there, but there's a lot to this program. That's just a really quick overview of getting these done. But yeah, it's a good start anyhow. Hopefully that gets you somewhere.